Call this meeting, Monticello City Council to order. Would you please rise and join me in reciting the pledge and remain standing as Rich Ratz from Crossword Church leads us in prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, thank you for the blessings that you have given us and the opportunity we have to call this community our home. Thank you for those who serve us in every capacity. We pray your blessings upon them. God, I pray that you would grant this group wisdom and courage and discernment as they lead us. God, may decisions be made and choices taken that would cause your kingdom to come and your will to be done here on earth as it is in heaven.
Amen. Amen. Okay. Roll call, please, Pam. I did it right.
He predicted it too.
Sorry.
Every time.
Jill. It's Jill.
30, he predicted it.
Mr. Brown. Mrs. Stevens. Here. Mrs. Harlan.
Here.
Mr. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Brock.
Here.
Mr. Clark. Mr. Miller.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thanks. If I hadn't talked to her right before we started, I would have. I don't think. Public participation. Oh, I'm sorry, out there. Is there none? Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda. Approval of documents and actions listed as follows. Claims report. Claims dated April 23rd, 2019 through May 13, 2019. Meeting minutes. City Council meeting minutes, April 22, 2019. City Council closed session meeting minutes, April 22nd, 2019. Police report, April 2019. Permit report, April 2019. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Anybody have questions they want to ask city staff about anything?
What was our total that we budgeted for beautification last year? Approximately.
I defer.
$15,000.
15, okay, thank you.
For supply.
For supplies.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing and seeing none, can I have a roll call, please? Jill?
Mrs. Stevens.
Yes.
Excuse me. Mrs. Harlan.
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Mr. Brock.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Mayor's report. I have a proclamation to read. National Police Week 2019. Whereas National Police Week is to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Whereas the dedicated men and women who have chosen law enforcement as a career face extraordinary risks and dangers in preserving our freedom and security. And whereas it is fitting and proper that we express our gratitude for the dedicated service and courageous deeds of law enforcement officers and for the contributions they have made to the security and well-being of all our people. And whereas by a joint resolution approved October 1, 1962, the Congress has requested the President to designate May 15 of each year as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the calendar week during which such May 15 occurs as Police Week. And whereas the members of the City of Monticello Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of our community, now therefore be it resolved that the Monticello City Council hereby proclaims May 12 through 18, 2019 as Police Week in the City of Monticello. Be it further resolved that the Monticello City Council publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and communities across the nation, and encourages all citizens to express appreciation to those who continue to dedicate themselves to our safety and security. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Monticello to be affixed on this 13th day of May 2019. If there are police officers in the audience, would you please stand? John, would you come and accept this? Thank you all. You guys do a great job. Guys and gals do a great job. Okay, at this time, I have more mayor's reports. Business news. Yoga Off the Square has found a permanent location at 208 West Washington Street. Stop by and wish Jane and Josie a welcome to their new location in downtown Monticello. Stop by the new location of Mindful Beginnings at 112 West Washington Street for their ribbon cutting at 11 o'clock a.m. and their grand opening celebration this Saturday, May 18th, between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Congratulations to Pete and Diana McFeeters, who have owned the East End Tavern for 30 years. Upcoming events. The Lions Club Fish Fries are starting up for the summer, with the first one being this Friday at 5 p.m. in the community building basement. May Steam Weekend is this weekend at Saturday and Sunday at the Railroad Museum. The Spring Soiree fundraiser at Allerton Park is also this Saturday. At this time, I would like John Frericks from Ward 1, Mrs. Stevens from Ward 2, Mrs. Harlan from Ward 3, Rodney Burris from Ward 3, and Mr. Reed from Ward 4 to please step forward and be sworn in. And Jill is going to do it. Come on up here. Come on up here. Right in front of me. I've got the stick in case you can't speak.
Do you want them this way or this way?
I don't care, whichever is best for you, whichever you're comfortable. Let John in the line, just because he's young.
I'll read the oath and then I'll check. All right, and I broke it into small statements. I state your name,
I,
John Frericks,
having been elected
having been elected
to the office of,
to the office of Ward 3
in the city of Monticello,
in the city of Monticello,
in the county of Piatt, aforesaid,
in the county of Piatt, aforesaid,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of
of the office of Ward 1, Ward 3 Alderman
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
All right. Welcome.
Congratulations. Okay, you need to take your seats. Robin, you sit right next to John Miller. I'm sure he'll be a good guardian.
Excellent. There you go.
And he'll lead you besides the still waters, I'm afraid. Welcome. I must say that I'm excited about having so many new faces on the council, so looking forward to the next 2 years. Hopefully we'll be successful in what future endeavors might be. New business, mayoral appointments. I would like to make the following appointments. Planning and Zoning Board, Martha Ann Regal, 5-year term, expires April 2024. Historic Preservation, Ryan Tracy, Katie Hudson, Maynard Surrey, 3-year term, expires April 10, 2022. Chad Johnson, vacant term, expiring 2021. Fire and Police Commission, Jenna Whetstone Branch, 3-year term, expires April 2022. Monticello Fire Department volunteer firefighter, Cody Fitzsimmons. Cody, are you here? Would you stand so everyone knows who you are? We'll recognize you. Thank you. And Police Pension Board, Kelly Finette, 1-year term, expires April 30th of 2020. Is there a motion to approve my,
So moved.
is it second?
Second.
Any discussion? Can I have a roll call, please? Jill?
Yes. Mr. Frericks.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens.
Yes.
Mrs. Harlan.
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, Dirk, it's you.
Okay.
This isn't where I told you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dirk Price from Minnesota Link. I'm one of your attorneys. And the mayor asked me to just do a quick boot camp, so to speak, of things the newly elected officials need to know. So congratulations. Make sure you sign your oaths of office tonight before you leave. And at the end, before executive session, everyone's welcome to stay for cake. We've got cake to celebrate the new elected officials. So, here's what you need to know. You're not going to remember this. You're going to come from practice. Hands an old hand at this, but here we go. And I need to take you back to 8th grade civics class. Because in 8th grade civics class, we all learned, of course, when we're talking about the federal Constitution, that the United States government only has the powers enumerated in the Constitution and given to it, and that the states kept everything else to themselves. Well, the state of Illinois turns around to the city of Monticello and other units of local government, all of them, and says, same goes for you. You only have the powers we expressly give you in a statute, and all others are reserved to us, the state of Illinois. Now, for some bigger municipalities, there's a few exceptions around what's called home rule, but what you need to know is Monticello is not home rule. And so we always are searching for something as a basis for the powers we exert. And we're not always able to do everything we hope to do because we can't find that power. It's often referred to as Judge Dillon's rule, because Judge Dillon was the judge who announced that rule of law as applicable in Illinois to the units of local government. And because we're not home rule, we also can't ignore our own legislation. So you have to follow your own ordinances. And over time that I've been the lawyer for the city of Monticello, we've worked to get rid of things that cause us heartburn. We've updated things that have allowed us to move forward and work more efficiently, and to keep pace with technology. Now you all get the whole packet to you a couple of days earlier than we used to, and it's all in electronic form and shared. You're not waiting for paper and packet. And so a number of things go that way. So with that in mind, the power is always grounded in the statute or in our own ordinances. Let's talk about what powers you have. Individually, each of you aldermen have no power. You have no power to do anything. Zero. The mayor has a skosh bit more power with the clerk than you do, but just a tiny bit. Because the only power you have is acting as a collective body. When you meet here, you get to do. Terry and Callie, they interact daily with the people. You've authorized them to do that in the ordinances and their job descriptions. They can do that. They make decisions on behalf of the city. But you, as council people, aren't in that position, and so you need to remember that when you're out and about. Because whether you're at church or the supermarket, or at a festival, or an opening of a new business, people will come up to you and say, why can't you do this for me? And you need to remember that I can't do anything for you. We collectively can. I will be happy to carry this water to the whole council, ask the council and the mayor to act upon this, or refer it to staff. But you got to remember, you can't promise to do anything because you don't have the power to do anything by yourself. And once you kind of recognize that we're working together as a collective body, but the staff, the mayor, it makes it easier to do that. That's why in our rules, any two of you can get something on the agenda. The mayor typically handles that with the clerk and staff, but if there are two of you that feel strongly, it's not the mayor's agenda, it's not the clerk's agenda, it's the body's agenda. And so you can do that. The talking about meetings, when we go through a meeting, you have your own adopted rules for how a meeting is to run. It's published in the Code of Ordinances, and we have to follow those. And it was also part of a resolution, so the ordinances set out what the agenda looks like, what the normal headings of business are. Under the Open Meetings Act, though, we have to get specific about the particular things we're doing, or it's subject to a challenge. Each of you newly elected officials will have to take online the Secretary of State's Open Meetings Act training and pass it. You have to do that every new term. So, your term is 4 years, you don't have to do it again if you run for reelection for another 4 years, but you have to do that, and you have to give the certificate to the clerk. That'll teach you more about the specifics of the Open Meeting Act, but in general, the idea of the Open Meeting Act is we tell everybody in the public 48 hours in advance, at least, what it is we're going to be acting upon, with enough specificity that people are able to come if they're interested. Annexing land, that's not specific enough. Annexing land with a legal description, that's highly specific, but that might be helpful. So we try to coordinate a way to so that people understand, oh, we're looking at the north end of the city to add property, so that people understand what it is you're doing. And you're working hard at it, so you might as well get some credit for the work you're doing. So we have to publish that agenda 48 hours in advance. It's 48 calendar hours, not business hours. It's 48 calendar hours, so even up to Sunday evening, we can be putting changes on. We have to let the press know what it is we're doing. They've got something on file, so we copy them in. If it's not on the agenda, we have some workaround tools. Once in a while, things happen in your community where you need to do something about it. Somebody shows up in between meetings. They need you to pass a resolution or give them a parade permit or whatever it is. Somebody's coming home, a service person, and you want to do something. We have workaround tools called ratification. You'll do it, and you'll ratify it at the next meeting. I've done that here in Monticello with you folks once in a while, as a way to get something done that's important, but we couldn't get it on the agenda in time to do it officially. So there are some workarounds. That power you have, there are court cases that say it. But in general, for a meeting where we do the public's business, where we act with the power we have, it's got to be on the agenda 48 hours in advance. And then we take it from there. And it's not so that you're bound to it. It's enough that so people understand what the issue is, that people may say yes and no. So I'll give you an example. We're going to go through budget process. That's a great time. That's a fun time for everybody, the whole budget process. And in the budget process, you have to put on file a budget, and then you talk about it some more. Well, you get to change it. Even after you've put it on file and told everybody, here's what we think the draft is, you're allowed to get more input from people over the course of the next month that it's on file and make final changes. So you can make changes at the meeting, even though you've had a draft out there, for example. And we can make changes here, and then they go forward. So even at these meetings, we've sat here and changed words, eliminated provisions that we thought were in the best interest of the community. Your rules, again, the agenda set there is in the resolution, and there is a single-page summary sheet we prepared some time ago. Terry has it if you need it, about how things get on the agenda and how things go through the agenda, how to pass an ordinance or a resolution. And you'll say to yourself, why is this a resolution, why is this an ordinance? The only thing that can amend an ordinance is another ordinance by equal dignity. So sometimes we'll have to do things by ordinance because we have to amend a different ordinance, or the law requires things like annexation be in an ordinance. Other things are resolutions, and some things are just simple motions and approvals. And that's the level of decreasing sort of strength and dignity of these things. You have a process put in place by the resolution, which was born out of a process that was paper-centric and where people weren't checking in as quickly about the communications with staff. So we have what's called the 2 readings. This is an attempt to not surprise you, the elected official, here at the meeting. That something will get talked about at least once, is the idea, in a reading setting, and then be brought back for formal action. Other communities do it by having it introduced at least one meeting ahead in a committee of the whole, or a workshop, or those kinds of things. This has become less important the more we've relied on these, because you're getting these things ahead of time at home, and you're less likely to be surprised, and you're getting it during the work week so that you have an opportunity to discuss it with staff. We not only don't want you surprised here, but staff doesn't want to be surprised either. Staff is truly eager to answer your questions and provide you with information, and the more that you can give them a heads up about what it is you want to know, staff will find the answers or tell you why it is they can't. But you have built in to your process the idea that there's a first reading and then a second reading on major items of action. But it's become the custom to typically waive the necessity for a second reading and to act on it unless there really is something that you want to discuss. And that's one of these things that you can consider, as you guys find your way working together moving forward, whether you want to amend that or not. It's not written in stone, doesn't come from or you can change whatever it is you would like to change from everybody. But you have this first and second reading thing, and then there's possible adjustments and alternatives to that process. So that's how something ends up on your agenda, that's how something gets acted upon. The mayor has veto power, and you can override the veto. That's the way it works. Occasionally, we've run into things here where we've put into our own ordinances things that either the legislature has changed their mind about, taken power away from you, or wasn't exactly kosher to begin with. And so we revise those things and change them. We've had that occasionally, but most of the things that we've worked our way through. Callie's working her way through a new zoning ordinance, and that takes a lot of time and process. What you need to know about land use is you only have the power as a city to regulate land use by having a plan commission, who sat down and said, well, if we have a plan, then we can regulate how the property is used, because in Illinois, primary objective for all land is that it's used productively. That's why you can adversely possess your neighbor's property. Because if I'm adversely possessing Callie's property and I'm using it and she's not, I get rewarded for use. That's the highest prime directive about real estate in the state of Illinois. So you, the city, trying to regulate in any fashion is an encumbrance on use. So we have to have a plan. And so the Plan Commission is the keeper of the plan. They are the ones who look at it and make recommendations to you, and then you act in the final regard. But it's essential that it go through the Plan Commission, and it go through the Plan Commission without any of you folks putting your thumbs on the scale. You are the ultimate decision makers, so you've got to result in a fair process where everybody's heard at Plan Commission, and then that is brought forward here. And you want it to be that way because in a hearing there's no time limits. It's got to be relevant and to the point, but unlike here at public comment where we have a clock that limits you to the amount of time, in a public hearing everybody gets to testify. Occasionally you will have hearings here, budget, some annexations, possibly annexation agreements. Those kinds of things are hearings, and there's no time limit. But for public comment, you're allowed to put in reasonable rules, and you have them. And it's the mayor's job to enforce them, nobody else's. The thing I would tell you and remind you all about public comment when you're here at the meeting is that the person coming up to give public comment, probably for a week or two, has been studying the issue, working on it, maybe even sending FOIA requests, getting their data together. Meanwhile, you folks have families and jobs and your social lives, and you've come here and made room to do the business that was put before you by staff and others, and you get here and now you are confronted with somebody who's researched something for a couple of weeks in their big moment and you're not prepared. Don't engage in a debate. Ask staff to look into it for you, get back to you, and continue it. We're not going to brush them off, we're not going to ignore them, but you're not prepared to usually deal with the issue. And so don't try to. It's more effective as government when you work together, including staff, to deliver that message that thank you, we'll take that under advisement, and we'll get you an answer. But we don't have an answer now, and things go better when we recognize the limitations of what's going on. In terms of the rest of the business, as it's outlined by your ordinances, we have an executive session. We'll have one today. Executive session doesn't actually have to be on the agenda. By its nature, these are things that crop up and the municipality has to deal with them. So that's an exception. You don't have to put that on an agenda ahead of time. We always do have it on here, and we have to state the reasons we're going into it. So for tonight, we're going in to talk about pending litigation. We're going to also go in every 6 months. We have to release whatever minutes there are of the executive sessions if they're ready to be released. We think that that's appropriate. So we have to list those reasons why we're going in there so that everybody knows why. And then that's overseen, the check and balance on that is overseen by the public access counselor of the Attorney General's office. So they keep an eye on what we're doing in there. Occasionally they may ask to listen to the tape. It's the one place we record officially is an executive session, and the tape is only for that purpose, to determine whether or not we violated the Open Meetings Act. It is is not for minutes, is not available for FOIA, is for one and only one purpose, and it's destroyed after 18 months after the meeting, for that reason. We try to keep people on track in there, talk about those things, but that's executive session, and typically that's the end of it. One last thing I want to talk about in terms of something you'll run into and hear about, so that you understand where it's coming from, is FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. You have duly designated and appointed FOIA officers who go through training and certification, and they hold that designation and certification. That's simply about records. There are a number of things that you can't get that frustrate people sometimes. There are commercial enterprises that want to know everybody who's pulled a building permit. They'd like to see their plans, because maybe they have a security system to sell or something. You don't hand out people's plans, because you don't want me to know where the wires run for your security system, do you? Or how to maybe find a way into your home. And so those kinds of exemptions exist in FOIA, but you have people who are designated that. What you need to know is that any communication in writing seeking those records is a FOIA request, whether it's an email, a text message, any of that. And this is where a lot of this comes in for you. You all should have a Monticello email account. Use that exclusively for your correspondence with the citizens. And tell people to send it there. Or if you get one, maybe somebody in church has your own personal email and that's where they send it. Forward it to your email account at the city. Why? Because your FOIA officer has to swear that when a request comes in for something, the FOIA officer has searched all of the records of the city. If you are maintaining a Yahoo, Gmail, your own text account, and not forwarding it to this, then we have to come to your home and look at all of those. So let's all agree that the way we're going to deal with this is anything city related you're going to send to your Monticello email account, and then when our FOIA officer goes through that, they've checked all the records. Also keeps you out of trouble. The PAC hates anybody texting special things. Remember, any two of you can talk to each other, but not three of you at the same time. Does that mean all email communications to all of you are a problem? No. The example given in the court is that if you sent a letter to all your fellow aldermen and the mayor, and the U.S. Post Office delivered it by SneakerNet, and then Wendy decided he was going to write one back to everybody, and then handed it to the postalman, and the postal worker delivered it by everybody by SneakerNet back. That's not a that is not a meeting, because it's not contemporaneous. The communications aren't happening to each other in real time. There's time separated by the post office delivering the mail. On the other hand, the speakerphone and a conference call where you all jumped on it, that's obviously a meeting. You're having a real communication even though you're not face-to-face and you're having it in real time. Email is somewhere in that spectrum, right? A blast to everybody is the initial letter to everybody. How quickly you respond, and if you're responding to all, that can quickly become a meeting. You can see how that would be a problem with this typing instead of a conference call. So our advice is don't reply to all. Send your response back through Terry or through the mayor, who will then distribute it. And break up that contemporaneous nature of communication. We're not having a special meeting that the press and the public don't know about. So you have to be careful with these. The other thing I would remind you is that this is a phone, not just a text machine. So if you've got an issue with a staff member or a patient of the public, call them. You know why that's important? Because then I don't have to try and find that record about some communication when they say, I want all communications about you've ever had about the sewer treatment plant. That's a lot of records to produce for somebody, but that's what FOIA requires. When in fact, instead of a one-sentence text, which is I'm looking into it, which I now have to produce as a written record, a phone call to say, I'm looking into it, thanks for your concern, and a moment ago. Now I don't have to produce a phone call, you don't have to do that. So that's my last and helpful hints about these things is use them to great effect, stay in touch with your people, but remember, you got to route stuff through the official channels, don't be contemporaneous with each other, and use it as a phone. So it's a good tool. With that, that's your high-level introduction to
gave you an A tonight for your presentation.
Only because I brought cake.
Except my blood sugar is a little bit low right now, so if everyone doesn't mind, I think we'll just have a little break and have cake now, because I don't want the office staff to be stuck with all that cake, because they'll eat it. Okay, so let's break for cake. Where did you get the cake?
The cake was, so Callie's been kind enough to invite me to every one of the boot camps that you guys do for the entrepreneurs. And it seems like just about everyone has had a baker in it. So talking to Terry about the new official, I said, let's get a cake, let's get it from one of the boot camp bakers. And so this was from Emily Cotman. She was one of our boot camp bakers. She's Moonlight Bakery. She's a nurse by day and this incredible baker by moonlight, apparently. And so there's double chocolate and double vanilla, and everybody's welcome to have some cake.
Yay.
So please, let's just take 15 minutes, or 10 minutes and have a piece of cake.
All right.
Okay?
Tennessee,
Okay, good.
That'd be all right, maybe.
That'd be cool.
I hate to do it, but we need to get back on task. Now I'm tired. Resolution 2019-25, maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code, motor fuel tax, oil, and chip seal code. This goes to Jim, I suppose.
No.
Oh, come on. He's Public Works.
Brett Baker would normally be doing this, but he went home sick today and asked if I would cover for him, so he's in bed. Resolution 2019-25, this is our annual oil and chip seal coat program. If you recall in the past, to utilize motor fuel tax money, you have to send IDOT on this form. This notifies IDOT of our intent to spend $100,000 of our motor fuel tax money for the oil and chip program. This year, as in most years past, we kind of go all over the city, not just one quadrant or another quadrant. A lot of work's being done in Surrey Hills area. We're going to put another coat. We're going to put another coat on the Stoddard Court Street project we did last year, and Robert Webb, and then there's a couple of smaller streets up by Lincoln School that we're doing this year. That's in that map attached for your use. So it is recommended City Council discuss this resolution 2019-25 and approve it tonight so we can get this oil and chip program done. As always, we try to do it for school starts mid-August. Doing it this is a little bit earlier than we have done it in the past, so we're anticipating even maybe at the very beginning of August getting this thing done this year.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2019-25, maintenance under Illinois Highway Code, motor fuel tax, oil and chip seal code?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Questions? Hearing or seeing none, can I have a roll call, please? Jill?
Mr. Frericks?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Harlan?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Monticello Business District Plan discussion only. This must be Callie.
Nope.
This is Terry.
It's okay. Two, Mayor.
Why? She. Did she call you sick too and ask to fill in?
So the reason we want to discuss this tonight is to, let me back up. The City Council approved budgeting money for a business district consultant in this 2019 fiscal year budget. So in doing so, one of the first steps is to get a consensus, hopefully tonight from the City Council, on the preliminary, and I cannot stress enough, the preliminary boundary of this proposed business district plan. Couple of things to note. The business district can, once implemented and approved and all the filing work done with the state, it can go up to and be in place up to 23 years. So we're going to go over a few preliminary thoughts and ideas of what that money can be used for. But keep in mind, 23 years out or 15 years out, things are going to change. The business district sales tax can be up to 1%, and it goes in 0.25% increments up to that 1%. So our current sales tax rate is 7.25. Callie can probably tell you what the rest of every municipality in the state currently has, but 7.25 is pretty low around this immediate area, Champaign and Decatur and so on and so forth. So you could invoke a 1% and we would go from 7.25 obviously to 8.25. I think Keith Moran is the consultant doing the work for us. If you recall, he had a very good example when we started talking about this last year. You go down to True Value, you buy a $100 chainsaw. Today it costs you $107.25. Next year, if this is implemented, that same chainsaw for $100 would cost $108.25. So I think that was a very good example that Keith provided us. So before I get into some of the brainstorming, spitballing type projects that staff has identified in the years leading up to today, I'd like to go over and kind of go show you where the boundary limits are and get a consensus from the council that yay, we'll go with that boundary, or nay, we need to tweak it, do whatever we need to do. We need that decision or that consensus tonight. So the next step is the consultant will do a blight analysis, and some of these parcels will be removed or could be removed from the business district plan if they don't meet certain criteria. The business district tax, keep in mind, is only a tax on those eligible items. And we'll get into that here in a little bit when we go through this boundary. So to start up in the kind of the northwest corner there, if everybody can see the red dot cat toy. He's colorblind. That is the kind of the northwest corner of Railroad Street / Bridge Street. And if you continue easterly, we're going along the north right-of-way line of Bridge Street to, looks like, what? What is that? Okay, to the east side of the Calvary Baptist Church. Yes. And around, taking in the car wash, and then heading up Front Street to east, and then around down the west side of the railroad tracks, cutting around Bill Abbott's to the north line of Bridge Street, around to Dollar General, encompassing that, Circle K obviously, laundromat, and then skipping across to, is that Charter? So this corner is what, some commercial properties in there that's for sale. And then coming down Charter to the north side of Center Street, and then heading east to the east right-of-way line of Buchanan Street, and going south down that east right-of-way line to Livingston Street, and then that encompasses City Hall, Water Plant, Nix Park, and we'll head west along the south right-of-way line of Livingston Street to what looks like Hamilton. And we'll head south to, that looks like Main Street, then west to to South, Lafayette, and then to State Street, back down to Marion, and then over to Market Street, and then go around to the south side of County Market, and then around to FS, and then all the way up the east right-of-way line of the Norfolk Southern Railroad tracks, and then head west along the south right-of-way line of the Railway Museum property, and then up the west side of Railroad Street to where we began. You'll notice that we are not including at either lots of Bill Abbott's, and we are excluding Haas Motors due to some conflict with another car dealership in town that's not in this area. Rick Ridings. So, this is a preliminary boundary, and this boundary is inclusive to several infrastructure projects the city knows of that will be needing to be addressed, and we need to address them well within 23 years. Some of those projects include the covered ditch improvements. There's a covered ditch from Buchanan Street to State Street. Goes by Nick's Park through this parking lot and daylights by just north of the post office. There's two covered ditches that join near Lafayette Square area there. One goes from Marion Street and daylights at Viobin. The other goes from County Market, daylights at Viobin. They connect somewhere in there by Lafayette Square. I don't know what size those are, 6 foot diameter corrugated metal pipes, some are concrete. They are massive pipes. Another identified infrastructure project was out here in front of the Wabash Depot, a plaza / gateway, getting tourists and visitors from the Wabash Depot headed to the downtown. So do kind of a courtyard, inviting pedestrian traffic downtown. Streetscape projects, seems like every other year, every 3 years, there's a streetscape project. We're doing one this year, Washington and Market. We've identified, some more on Market Street, some on Independence Street, I think down by Monarch, Lafayette, South State Street, West Washington Street, Livingston Street still needs some work done it. Livingston Street Road, in case you come from Market Street, go by Subway. Needs a little repair there at Livingston, and identified additional road surface improvements around inside this whole boundary, including trail extensions, the Sangamon River Trail that goes from Railroad Street all the way out to Apple Tree. We tried to get an ITEP grant 2016, maybe one before that, to go from Railroad Street to the pool, from the pool to Market and Washington Street. That's the pedestrian crossing. So trail extensions. Center Street, Market to Buchanan. Center Street, if you drive that stretch from Market to Buchanan, it looks like a quilt with concrete patchworks. That's from water main breaks. We know we have a water main we need to replace there, and we know there's storm sewer and sanitary sewer that needs addressed in that area too. So those are public infrastructures that are in dire need or will be in the very near future. Again, I mentioned this goes around Nick's Park. In case there's any addition to Nick's Park that we need to do, that would be encompassed in that boundary. Pepsin, we're going to have requests for proposals with our fingers crossed. Those might go out yet this year. We still got somebody, Callie's very optimistic. We're still working with IEPA and the engineer, Mike Streff, on the Tract 8. Very, 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 very small piece of that Pepsin as a whole project. But Pepsin obviously is included in that boundary. Railroad Bridge Foothill intersection, school kids get dropped off there. We need to make sidewalk, it's a walkable community, that needs to be walkable from Bridge Street towards Surrey Hills. So another infrastructure need there. Some of the private, and the proposal here is to do a public-private collaboration. We know, this obviously encompasses the downtown, the historic downtown, the aging downtown. So the private side of that, there could be some increased funds provided to a facade improvement program that could be eligible. There could be funds allocated for any type of building safety grant program. And we know what the roof cost at the Moore building. We just dealt with that. And there's a lot of buildings down there that have those same issues. So that would be kind of the private side that and this is preliminary at this point in time. So there's about 160 sales tax collecting entities in that area. And there's approximately 100 buildings within proposed area that could be eligible for this type of grant program. So tonight, I would ask for some directions, some input, some yay, nays on this boundary in its general form, just so we can let the consultant do his job to get the blight analysis. And then then we'll be reconvening and talking to the council at that point in time. And this will kind of be a work in progress. I think there's a couple of dates that need to be adhered to. September, was that one? And this is all for, if it comes to fruition, this would be implemented January 1 of 2020 would be the anticipated implementation date, start date of January 1. So this is not the last conversation we'll have. We'll definitely have numerous more conversations as we move down this road. Again, council approved a consultant to do this for us in conjunction and cooperation with city staff being Callie Jo McFarland. So if there's any questions on the boundary, if you want to see something changed or ask why is that, why isn't that, now's your time. Time's up.
Comments?
Terry, why don't we just call this the downtown Monticello Business District area? Because we're excluding businesses to the north and to the south that are in the city limits. To me, if we're talking about the downtown, maybe we should just name it the downtown business district. No,
We will have to give it an official name if the council chooses to adopt it, and most likely, in every other example, it's descriptive of that location. So while business district's general at this point, that's kind of what we think we're heading.
And one of the reasons for this discussion, so everybody understands the general fund, this will alleviate some of the strain on the general fund. There's probably 4 more miles of roads outside of this district that will need rehabilitation, resurfacing, you name, Sage Drive, State Street. There's more roads that will need addressed that though the general funds those can be accomplished. This will accomplish a lot in the downtown. That streetscape, that pavement was done in 2001. I mean, 20 years and 25 years on asphalt's pretty good life.
Right.
So, and the pavement marking is in dire need of some help downtown. So, yeah. So the premise for some of this is to alleviate the strain on the general fund and use the general fund outside of that area.
Okay, thanks.
So you got the automobile places that sell cars, you got them blocked out? Yeah?
Go ahead.
So the business district tax is not on anything titled. So while the cars themselves will not have that additional tax, the parts would. However, because we are a small town, we want to kind of make as even a playing field
Sure.
as we can. And Wrighty's is obviously a big competitor of the two in the core of the community. So just to kind of even the playing field a little bit, I don't anticipate it having too much of an impact on whether they're in or out.
Yeah, my other question would be, there are other garages in this area,
Right.
but you're already addressing the parts. Are you addressing also the services that they do?
The service doesn't get taxed. This is just.
My bad,
sales
sorry,
tax.
thank
Yeah.
you. Rookie.
Okay.
Good question.
So groceries don't get taxed any more than 1% than what they?
Groceries are actually not eligible as well.
Okay.
On this particular tax. So your ancillary items, batteries or even the food prep, like if you bought a rotisserie chicken or something like that. But your basic general groceries, eggs, milk, bread, things like that. not
Still
eligible.
1%.
Right, just like any other day.
So you probably told me this maybe at one time already, but just, what do you think the general sales tax, if you taxed it at 1%, how many dollars are you thinking we're even talking about?
If the council were interested in entertaining this idea of the full 1%, I think that a very conservative figure, which I'm just throwing out there, thinking 150 a year minimum is what could be generated from this. Again, I think that's incredibly conservative, and I think it would be exceeded. But
I think that's extremely conservative. But we don't want to save
I don't know those budget
$500,000
low.
either.
Anyone else? Are we pretty much in favor of the boundary as drawn? I can't, I'm just thinking about it, I don't see any need to expand it anymore.
I would, again, encourage and invite anybody that has any questions. I know a couple of you are new to this idea. We talked about it last fall. Reach out to Terry and I. We're happy to clarify. or
Yeah,
answer
please,
questions.
please use your resources in this building. We've been, some of us in the past have been rather negligent about calling and asking, because they'll give you answers to anything you want.
Farm equipment's excluded too, right, from this, I
And
believe?
it's titled, so it's excluded.
So you're gonna tax parts then too, then?
Parts of it, yeah. And you'll see both the dealerships, or the mower shop and AHW are in there, so it's kind of equal.
Anyone else? Is that all you needed, or do you want to say
There's
something?
one more important part.
Yeah.
Pharmaceuticals is also not eligible, so, you notice Walgreens, which is a huge contributor to our sales tax base, in downtown, it wouldn't impact that as
Gasoline?
gasoline and other fuel tax, that's different.
Okay.
Now ancillary
I'm
items,
just asking, because somebody will ask.
but your ancillary items, like your soda, coffee, whatever, you
Right.
get in the gas station, yes.
But you pay tax on that anyway, so it's understandable.
So I think
Are we good then? Good then?
Yeah, I'm good.
I think the boundary is good to pass along to the consultant.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Alderman's reports, this shouldn't take much time. John, you got one?
Not particularly, Mr. Mayor. Just want to say, looking forward to working and serving with everyone. Very excited to be up here, and I've been coming to the city council meetings now for probably over 2 years. Just to stay in touch and learned a lot with the Planning Commission and Zoning Board. So it was bittersweet to leave there after 4 years, 4 months. So I think my wife will be happy to have me home during those Mondays and be gone 2, not 3 out of the month. But I still might drop in, so that's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Tammy?
I don't have anything other than welcome to the both of you and look forward to working with you.
Pam?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Thomas? John?
Just welcome the new people on the council. Look forward to working with everybody.
Rodney?
Thank you for being gracious already today, and I just ask
See,
you
we
to
have
continue.
cake for you and everything.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
First council that's ever got, new council that's ever gotten cake. I remember things. I can't remember names, but I can remember that.
Thanks for the cake. And welcome to you both.
Thank you.
You'll enjoy it.
Do you have anything you want to say? No. Police chief?
Just a report on drug take. We collected 134 pounds of unused medications that were disposed of.
With the street size.
Well done.
That's awesome.
Good effort to that is a lot.
That's it?
Yep.
Thank you. City administrator, Mr. Summers.
I'd like to just welcome John Frericks and Rodney Burris to the city council. I, for one, would extend come in to City Hall, make time to come in and meet with me, and I'd love to take you door to door and introduce you to the staff that do a tremendous job of helping me every single day, and they do an excellent job answering your questions. You got a wealth of information down these hallways, and I'd love to introduce you to each one of them. And just give me a call or shoot me an email on your city email account, which will be set up by Maura tomorrow, maybe. Use that email. So welcome aboard. I'm looking forward to it. Really great news. One of our public works guys that has been out since February due to some family things came back to work today. Did he work all day today? So we're blessed that he made it back. And then we actually had another start, some treatment, and it's probably going to be out for 3 or 4 months. So keep Jake in your thoughts and prayers if you would. So that's all I have.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to go into closed session to discuss litigation, pending litigation, arraignment litigation, and also to review closed session minutes. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please, Jill?
Mr. Frericks?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Harlan?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. There will be a resolution when we come